everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you. And I thought I'd give some quick thoughts and feelings on the recent first reveal of the Superman suit worn by David Corenswet for James Gunn's upcoming Superman movie, which is due for release sometime in June 2025. Now, to be honest, I was hesitant to do this video as overall I'm very indifferent in terms of hype regarding this movie. When I look at how Warner Brothers has treated the character of Superman certainly over the last 10 to 15 years across all media formats, we look at James Gunn's filmmaking tone and style, which I still thought isn't right for the character, and with all of the various roles already involved in this film, I do fear that it's going to be overcrowded at Superman's expense. But that's all speculative debate for another day, and for now we will deal with what we have in terms of actual tangible elements. So we'll then look at the suit overall in terms of its design, and my first initial impression was, in terms of this look, that it was very underwhelming. If we go from the context over the fact that James Gunn has plans for his new chapter of DC in terms of gods and monsters, and also the divisiveness over this recent Snyder version, you'd think that he'd want the first image to be really eye-catching and dynamic and energetic to really try and generate hype and excitement for many people who are still unsure about this movie. Generally, we would want to see Superman in some sort of flying pose, travelling at super speed or hovering airborne, or using his powers. But to have this pose here of him just sitting down, very downbeat and downcast, head down, in a damaged, dirty suit, giving all of those concerning deconstructive vibes that we absolutely do not want to see again in terms of Superman, it's just not a pose that I think generates any enthusiasm. And of all of the different angles and shots that you could have selected for Superman or any comic book character, this is by far the worst choice. Now, I've heard many arguments online that this is somehow showing a more realer perspective of Superman in terms of this is how he comes home after a hard day's work. What would that be like? But once more, this shouldn't be about trying to find some sort of elements of realism within the character. At the end of the day, this is comic book, this is adventure, this is escapism. We really shouldn't be wondering about what Superman feels like after a hard day's work. We should really be focusing much more on seeing him saving people, performing incredible feats of heroism and good deeds. But to try and insert some sense of normalcy, again trying to make him more relatable, I just feel that's the wrong direction to be heading in. So not very much a fan of the actual pose itself. But when we look at the actual costume design, I've said previously on social media that I'm not a fan of the supposed S symbol at all, if you can call it that. Yes, I do understand it's very much riffing off the Kingdom Come design from the comic book version drawn by Alex Ross. But again, you were dealing with a Superman that was very experienced and had a long time and tenure within his career. That was very much a broken down Superman following a recent traumatic experience. But that's not what we're painting here. We do know that this will be a Superman in his very early stages as he's first arriving in a metropolis and he's getting to know the likes of Lois Lane and Jimmy. So we shouldn't be seeing any type of reference to Kingdom Come at all. I just don't understand why we just couldn't have had the classic S symbol as usual. Yes, of course, you're going to get a slight variance in terms of the overall design as with all iterations of Superman, but overall we do generally have that S shape which is completely identifiable and essential to the look of the character. Despite all of Warner Brothers' problems at the moment, it surely can't be a licensing issue, so I really don't understand why they decided to go for this overall symbol. We then look at the costume in other places and in terms of all of the lines and segments. Again, I really don't like that. It evokes that same armor aesthetic that we saw from the new 52 design, which I never liked either. I just think it's overcomplicated, and I think Superman's physique should really be enough to make an impression within the suit. The segments and lines don't really add anything. We see them again on the arms as well, and also the shoulders and the legs. And for me, it just gives much more of that biker jacket look, which doesn't look good, especially with all of the dirt already on the costume. So I just think it's unnecessary, and we've seen this a lot also in recent iterations, both the looks of the CW version of Superman and also to a lesser extent the Henry Cavill version. We then look at the suit itself and the fact that it does look very baggy and oversized. We see that certainly in the upper portion of the suit and more noticeably with the arms, where it also looks like David Corenswet is too small to fit in the suit, which is very strange given the fact that he's 6'3" in terms of height, and we assume very much so that he has been working out very hard in preparation for this role. You go on social media and you'll see certain workout pictures of him training. So in no way, shape or form should the suit really be too big or too baggy for David Corenswet at all. Again, with all of the majority of superhero costumes that we see, whether it's in live action or comic book or animation, there should be, to a certain extent, a skin-tight aesthetic to really accentuate the physique, which should be the most elite form of human condition. We are really here looking at superheroes. So this is the supreme, the absolute heightened version of a body type. Since these are superheroes performing amazing feats of amazing abilities, to an extent we should be always seeing the musculature, the curves and the vascularity. That's true comic book, that's true fantasy, that these superheroes should really embody. They are wish fulfillment, they are people that we look towards to aspire to. So I really don't understand why it's baggy and oversized on him. Again, we look at the boots as well. We have again those lines, those segments that aren't really needed, and they just look a bit clunky and a bit robotic. Again, we should have much more of that skin tight to really emphasize the calves and the legs. Again, focusing much more on the overall physique. I do feel that whenever you add these segments and these much more box-like shapes, you're trying to compensate for the fact that the person wearing the costume isn't really in good shape. We saw this to an extent with the Robert Pattinson Batman suit. We do of course finally have to mention the whole colour scheme, and once more we yet again have these faded and saturated colours, and it's a bit frustrating, to be honest with you, how constantly now with every single superhero or Superman live action interpretation, the colours always have to be faded and muted. We've seen this all the way through from the Man of Steel version to the CW version with both Superman and Supergirl, and even going way back with the Brandon Routh version. When I saw that Superman suit, I didn't really like that either. I just felt again the S was too small, and we look at those colours again, it wasn't even really a shade of red, it was much more this burgundy type of colour. Again, it's just Warner Brothers showing like they're almost ashamed for Superman to be shown as he truly is. I will never understand this, especially in this era of superhero entertainment where we've seen certainly the genre dominate mainstream culture for the last 12 to 13 years. We've seen all sorts of characters in all shapes and sizes and different colours embrace the screen, no problem. And again, this is Superman. He should be vibrant, he should be colourful, and people will accuse me of being overly nostalgic, but once more, you just refer to the Christopher Reeve version and you look at all of the colours, look how vibrant and vivid and energetic and dynamic it looks. Again, the colours are bright and it completely works. You never doubt it for 1 second. With his version, of course, you didn't need any of these segments or more bulked on elements. You just show the character as he is in his more natural physique. So I really don't understand why we couldn't have had the more brighter colour scheme. Again, you only need to go on social media and you'll see a whole host of fan arts and fan designs and filters that show this pose alone in a much more Superman-esque type of fashion. So again, you really have to question what's going on in terms of James Gunn and his creative team. So again, not a fan of the pose. I will assume that this will be perhaps the prototype version, and then later on we will get the finished version towards maybe the third and climatic act. This is always a standard now for these origin type of stories. We saw it to an extent, of course, with the Iron Man films, the Captain America movies, and also, I think to an extent, the Spider-Man Homecoming films as well. But once more, again, I just feel for your first impression, your first opportunity to really get people excited for Superman, I just think this was the wrong choice and the wrong pose to go for. So just quickly then, I see other people are referring to the background. To be honest, I don't really care. I don't think this is actually a screenshot from the film. I think what it was they had this original pose and they realised that it wasn't that exciting or dynamic. Maybe this was the only pose that they could collect at the time because they're still shooting the film. And I think they just added in something more exciting in the background just to try and make it more dynamic. It didn't really work for me. I don't really care what's going on in the background. It is possible that perhaps this image was going to leak, as what we normally see with these films nowadays, so they just decided to rush it out and release it in the main media space, and they just added this background just to try and make it more exciting, but it didn't really achieve that in my overall opinion. So that's it really in terms of this look at the costume. Again, it's not absolutely terrible, but I just wish that we could have had something far more closer to the spirit and tone of Superman. Again, this is just Warner Brothers just being completely ashamed of the character, and I will never understand why, because he is obviously the greatest superhero and the true heart of the DC universe. So those are my overall thoughts and feelings. Much more detailed breakdown of the Superman costume recently revealed for James Gunn's upcoming movie. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any other further suggestions or topics that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, or movies or television series that you'd like to see me review, then also let me know in the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.